I don't think it would have been possible without that one meeting with Abby. So, and I think she realizes that, but I like to tell her that every so often that it's a pretty big reason. My name is Melissa Eaden. I'm a senior technologist. I have been everything from a manual tester to an automation, all the way up to a QA manager, and now a engineering manager. So I'm currently working at Unity Technologies, and Unity Technologies is a game engine company primarily, but they also have several other offerings around virtualized graphics, 3D rendering, ads for mobile and desktop games. So there's a lot going on at Unity today. So it's a lot of fun to work there. A little stressful at times, but still a lot of fun because of all of the interesting things happening. So when I have led a QA team, the best parts are being able to interact with everybody that has specific knowledge. Everybody comes in with different experiences. Some are better at coding than others. Some have higher process skills, like know how to find the gaps and get in and do the glue work. And if you're not familiar with that term, look up glue work, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of information around that. Those are the things that I like working with the team on, finding everybody's strengths and leaning into that and figuring out what kind of work they want to do, what their career goals are, how we can help each other out as a team. So all of that stuff is super interesting to me. And honestly, that's hopefully how every team works, regardless of the work that they do. But sometimes that's not the case. But that's how I like to help my teams and help them work. I don't like to micromanage, so it's very much a coaching, service oriented, where a servitor manager, where how can I help you do your job? That's my main focus and how I was taught to do management. So I prefer that. I prefer that approach to working with the team too. Wow, there are so many answers to this. Actually, I think the best, you have to, as a tester or QA person, or even a coach, working with them to find out what the best way is. It could be everything from pairing to a coaching model where they have questions about testing and you're helping them shape what that answer is going to be. It could be more hands-on and working with devs actually in the code. It could just be demoing code and tests between devs and testers. So I think every team has their dynamic and how they like to work. And it also depends on what model of software delivery you're doing. It's going to be different for a software development shop if they're using waterfall or agile or scrum or Kanban. So everything's going to be a little bit different. And if you've worked in a particular style, sometimes the initial reaction is to try to use that same style again. But I think from team to team to team, how I've worked with developers is different. It really depends on the team dynamics, and taking that into account and working with them and building a foundation of trust is more important than any particular style out there. So that would be my general answer to a really big question. Yeah. So I actually brought a stack of books with me. I'm gonna show them. So some of the first books that I recommend is Rocket Surgery Made Easy, Don't Make Me Think. This is all focused on UX design and general use cases. Really good foundation for testers. Digital Quality, really good reference material, especially working in cloud environments and mobile environments. I really recommend that. And Process, can't leave out the biggie, Lisa Crispin, Janet Gregory's Agile Testing. There's also more Agile Testing and Agile Testing Condensed, I think. So there's a couple books after this, but if you're going to get one, this is it. And then if you're a manager, even if you're not a manager, even if you're a QA lead or someone that interfaces with a lot of teams or a lot of people, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, definitely recommend as a lead or a manager, regardless of what your role is. This is really good for setting a foundation for how your team can work better. If you're looking for how to measure things, everything from KPIs to metrics, this is a really good foundational book. It talks about OKRs, but I think you can pull a lot of things from here, because oftentimes folks will, measure bugs, and bugs are a symptom of a bigger problem. So what you want to get to is, how do you measure the problem versus a kind of a vanity metric, right? So this really helps clarify a lot of that. And if you're someone that has problems figuring out how to start conversations, have conversations, having the right conversation, Crucial Conversations. I can't recommend this book enough. This is for anybody that works in software, period, or tech. I think we don't have enough of having the right conversation, and this is where we run into having meetings over and over and over again. We don't take away action items from meetings. We don't find clarity. So this book has really, really helped me focus what I'm asking and why I'm setting up a meeting. It's something as simple as an agenda can really clarify and make the meeting useful, right? So this will talk about those kinds of things and how you can make every conversation you have to the point and helpful. And those are the books I recommend. Yeah, so this book, actually, Heather Reed put this together, and I was the editor on this book. And, it was an amazing thing. And I think it was like kind of a first in class when we originally done this, and now it's kind of been repeated everywhere. The thing I would add to this, a new thing, is to have a new tester actually learn the org chart and learn Conway's Law, because those two are kind of interlocked. A lot of software companies will develop their software based on the org chart. And what I have found over time is that if you understand the org chart and who's doing what in that org chart, you can find where the gaps in quality are, what the initial problem is. And if you can narrow in on that, you can really find some low-hanging fruit that can raise the quality of a product pretty quickly, just by understanding how the product's being put together and who's involved in what parts of the product. Once I learned Conway's Law, like my whole perspective on how I approach testing changed, because it was, oh, it's not necessarily the developers that I have to go to fix this problem. It might be the product people, actually, or subject matter experts, to understand what they actually need and bring that back to the engineers, so that the engineers and I, as a tester or a QA person or a coach even, can explain it better and build a process around making that particular piece better, especially if it's high up in the customer complaint queue, So it requires a little bit of research and understanding, but once you get it, it's a lot easier to see patterns at a macro level that could affect quality, rather than just functionality or the code. And so that's pretty important, I think, to get, and a really hard lesson to get too, because it's not always visible. Like how things are put together is not always visible. So if you can get it and understand it, then you're going to do amazing things with quality. I just wrote a newsletter / blog about questions you should ask as a new manager. So you can check that out at melthetechie at substack.com. But one thing I would definitely recommend, period, regardless of questions you ask, the question you definitely should ask going into any new management situation is, what are the expectations of your role? Are you the hiring manager? Which means you need to understand how to retain people and also understand how if you have to let someone go or fire someone, you need to understand how that works and the process that's involved there before you ever really set foot into a team, or figure it out pretty quickly. And then the other thing is just understanding that expectation on you. Are you there as just to manage people? Are you a people person? Are you, expected to actually do IC work, individual contributor work along with your management work? Are you expected to do career development with your folks? Is there, things that you have to deliver on as a team that are going to affect KPIs or the bottom line or any of that? Like, so just asking questions about what the expectation for the role is, and then making sure that is very clear and that you have it even in writing in some instances, depending on, if you're doing contract work, especially, because what happens is I found that, especially with new managers, you don't know exactly what questions to ask. I know I fall into this category. I had really good mentoring. So after 3 years, it was like, okay, now I know, like, if I take another managing role, this is what this looks like. You really need to understand the scope of the work that you're taking on and not assume, because what happens is that either people will try to add to your scope, and then it's like, okay, then we're redefining. And if you're a contract to hire, that redefinition could change how you're getting paid, right? So, or should anyway, especially if they're adding more work. And if you're a full-time employee, that could change the amount of work you're trying to do, and you should be able to push back on that. It's like, well, my original scope is this, and if you're changing this work, then something else has to go, or I need more help, or so those are the kind of things that I would have as a new manager, have a new manager ask or expect them to ask, is to very much go, what are the expectations? What rules do I need to follow? Things like that. Because without that, you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants a little bit. And sometimes that's not the best way to do managerial work. Yeah, so it's been the last couple of years that I've worked as a engineering manager slash technologist, doing more generalized things. What that's allowed me to do is take things from being from the quality realm that were very narrow, very specific, and apply them to larger, bigger projects that can span business units and even companies sometimes. And I have done everything from, QA testing, obviously, to, program and product management, and sometimes analysis, data analysis. So it has really it's really taken the scope of what I know and do, and broadened it to be more strategic and more impactful in a way to quality overall. And I think that's where I really enjoy being, is digging into process and the tech at the same time, and helping people leverage the best parts of both, and also creating communication channels where they weren't previously, where they should have been in some instances, depending on the product, and watching kind of magic, shepherding and watching magic happen from that, because communication is the foundation of building software. I think the idea of being in this corner and coding or writing tests over in a corner is very much of a legacy of the past. I think we have to come out of that and be way more collaborative than what we're used to being. And the industry, I think, is reflecting that right now too. So I like that collaboration. I like being able to help people and put people together and talk about problems that they're both passionate about, and being passionate with them about solving those problems. The best meet, I have to say, was at an Ministry of Testing test bash in New York in 2015. I met Abby Vensinger, and she's a big guru now in DevOps world and doing all kinds of great stuff there. And back then, we were both testers, and I had a really long conversation until 3 o'clock in the morning about career growth and development and all of that stuff. And I think if I hadn't have met her and gotten a really good perspective and figured out what I wanted to do, which was move into consulting and work for ThoughtWorks, I don't think I'd be here. I think I'd be doing something else, or I'd still be a little bit unknown. So Abby and Ministry and Testing Group overall really impacted my career. And then, let me meet people like Lisa and Janet, and then Ash Coleman and Martin Henier and Angie Jones and Alan Page, who I worked for a while. So that all of those folks, I don't think would have been possible without that one meeting with Abby. So, and I think she realizes that, but I like to tell her that every so often that, it's a pretty big reason. And she helped quite a bit at that point. Yeah, if you're whether you're a functional mobile tester, whatever kind of flavor of tester you are, don't worry so much about being made redundant or being let out of a job. You have skills and abilities that you can adapt to new tech, to new ideas, to new workflows. You have to be open to doing that, though. I think a lot of times I've run into testers that have done the same kind of job for several years. And when things start changing in the company, they're some of the first people to go because they haven't adapted to new programs, new software that helps with testing. A really good example right now is trying to understand AI and how that's going to impact testing, because really it's definitely not going to eliminate testing. They're going to have to be experts in AI to help program the models and understand what those models are doing. And that's a whole other role, but it could still be part of testing and understanding, like, what's that data? Is that data good data or bad data? How do we keep that from, changing algorithms and models that we're using for software every day? So I think to be a tester, to maintain a career, you have to keep an open mind. You have to be adaptable. If that's any other advice I can give you, that would be it. Like, if you're getting into software testing, just learn everything you can, and then keep adapting, because I think outside of development roles, testing and QA and quality aspects or quality roles are probably the easiest to get into, in some cases, into tech. But from there, you have to really think about your career and how you can adapt it moving forward, and look at other roles too. You don't have to stay in testing. But yeah, that's my recommendation, is just, if you're open-minded and adaptable, you're going to be fine. And so don't worry about your job going anywhere, because you're going to develop your job. And you'll develop into another job always. You just have to keep your eye on what the company's doing, or find another company that is doing something that you are progressing your career in. So that's my recommendation.